Yo guys, I'm Dunmere. I'm a top 100 Overwatch tank player, and this is a guide with everything you need to know to dominate on the Thing. It'll cover actually important usage tips for all the abilities, and then go into a full gameplay breakdown of how to play the Thing. Alright, so when it comes to the Thing's abilities, he's pretty straightforward overall. You're not going to find a lot of his value locked up in special animation cancels or hitting weird combos or whatever, right? But there are some important things to know still. So when we start talking about his damaging capabilities, we have two versions of an attack. The first one is just a dual swing primary fire where you just keep hitting these little combo over and over and over. And then you have one that's a charged up punch. So how do you actually want to use them? Basically, it's just very simple. When you're on top of somebody, if you're just sitting there punching them with this, you're feeling the max total damage over time. So you're kind of just okay to do that, right? And if an enemy is further away from you, then you're going to want to hit him with this one because it has significantly longer range, right? And not only does it have good range, but it also cleaves directly through enemies. So you can hit both of them and get a lot of extra damage and charge your ult up really quickly. So basically, if people are stacked up, you want to hit them with the right click punch. If they're at range, you want to hit them with the right click punch. And if you're on top of someone, you can just hit them with the regular attacks. And that's just that simple, right? But there is a better combo that I would recommend doing that still has the exact same total damage over time, but will allow you to be more flexible. And that is hitting a big punch into a one set of swings into another punch, right? Like I said, this deals the same total damage over time as just holding your swing. But what it does is it allows you to have more burst damage. So you can explode through healing, and you can also use it to consistently travel around the map and chase someone better. So when you're walking with this right click, right, you are slowed, of course. And so you're not really able to move around the map that much, but if you add in a jump into it, you preserve a lot of momentum and you're literally able to travel at the same speed that you do when you're walking. So what this allows you to do is hit this combo in a way where you're dealing max damage and you're able to chase people around them. All right, so you're going to jump onto someone, hit it, punch, punch. They're going to jump away and then you can charge at them, or you can jump at them and hit them with a large swing. So there is actually one useful animation cancel you can do in the Thing with his combo of primary firing into the charged up swing. So instead of doing the full animation of the swings, swinging like this and then punching, you can actually get the damage from the left swing without actually doing the full swing animation. So instead of it being like this, swing, swing, punch, you can go swing, cancel, punch, right? So I got it a decent amount faster. You can actually get it so like your character's arm doesn't even move before the damage is dealt. That's a little bit difficult to do, but you're just canceling it before the left swing has fully gone off to get a pretty decent amount increased uptime in total damage. Like this. So for Thing's charging dash ability, there's a couple things that are going to let you get a lot of extra value on it. Now, when you would use it typically, it might seem like you just, want to run into the enemy team, knock them up, slam, and then just start punching, right? Because of course, the final slam portion leaves behind a field that stops enemies from using their movement cooldown, right, to jump away. And sure, that's valuable, but that's not the best way to do it, right? What you're going to want to do is make use of the whole timer of the dash, because you can hit people multiple times with it, right? So instead of just knocking them up one time and then not being able to knock them up for the rest of the time, you can actually run into them, hit a little spin like this, and then just keep hitting people over and over again, right? And it lets you CC them for a lot longer. So instead of you just like charging on the enemy team, slamming them down, and then like a healer throwing down their orb of healing and then laughing at you as you continue to try to kill them, you might be able to bait that out originally, right? As they get pressured by your team, shooting them when they're up in the air, and then you potentially being able to escape afterwards or chase them down and kill them, right? So it's going to look something like this. Like you walk up, you hit this engage, they start going up the stairs here, you chase them further, land on them, boom, 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 they can't jump away, and then you kill them, right? So that's a really, really useful basic engage you can do, or you can go and sweep through and then back out and get a way out. However, on top of that, you can use this in cooldowns or use this in choke points in a way that's super, super valuable. Like if in between the space is a choke point that enemies have to walk through, you can play up on this, be plunging at them, boom, pop this, start spinning. Anything that walks through is going to get absolutely messed up, and then you have just sit there and you've hard CC'd them like the whole duration, right? And that's an extremely, extremely useful thing that you can do get a lot of extra value. Just make sure you're not going too hard, or you might find yourself just run around in the enemy team and not be able to get out. Instead, do something sort of like that, right, to escape. So when it comes to the ally dash, you're going to want to be using it primarily just for its movement. Like I said, things are very simple overall, so you're just using it to move your body into a different location, right? Like if you've gone too far, you're taking too much damage, jump back to an ally. When an ally is getting pressured too hard on the side angle or something like that, you can jump onto them, pressure off the diver that's on them, or whatever. The other value it potentially does have is that it reduces the damage taken on you and your ally by 25%. But the thing is, that's not really that valuable. And you don't really want to be primarily, mainly because if you're trying to like save an ally with it or for something, it's only reducing the damage by 25%. So even though, you know, I've used my whole ability for that, the damage he's taking is not really that different than the regular damage of what just killed him. And it's significantly less valuable than just the ability to retreat with it or jump onto an ally to peel them in the first place, right? You don't want to focus mainly on the damage resistance. Occasionally you can use it like earlier in a fight when you're just like standing in a choke to just get a little bit less damage or a little bit of damage reduction, but it's not the main focus. Something that is important to know about the ability though is that it really has a relatively short range. So if you're not that close to your ally, you're gonna have a hard time actually taking advantage of it. So it means you can't really go that far and expect to like get back, right? This feels farther than it is, this range, but when your ally's like retreating and you know you're over here, you're gonna constantly be out, just barely out of range, unable to get back, and it's gonna be miserable. All right, so for the thing's ultimate, there's something that's really important to know about it that the tooltip doesn't actually say. So if you look at the tooltip, it just says that you use your power to launch all enemies in front of you into the air. But that's actually not all that it does, because it actually stuns the enemies for the full duration of it. That's why it gives the thing a really powerful ultimate, because people can't, you know, do anything during that whole duration. As you can see here, you cast it and they are stunned for about a second and a half afterward, right? Which is a big deal when it comes to your ability to actually kill things, because you aren't going to be having like supports sitting there healing each other in the air and all that kind of nonsense, right? So when you do hit this, what you'll have time for is basically one combo, right? And so the combo that you're going to be able to get off during this duration, and the one that's going to give you the most amount of burst potential, is to walk up on them, swing, and use your full charge punch, right? That's what you have time for. Alternatively, you do have time for a double punch into swinging like that. The first one is better if you're on top of the enemy, but if you're not, then, you know, go ahead and try and do the swing into the punch into the double swings. But what you're going to want to do is hit a combo, and you're going to want to line up the enemies during this and hit them with the punch, right? So you're going to be hitting them with the ultimate right here, walking up, punch, straight into hitting it for cleave damage, right? That is one option. If you do hit them with, like, if you know, get a pretty good ultimate, but maybe you aren't like able to actually secure the kills yourself, what you can do is you can use your shift afterwards, right? So let's say you pop it, you know, hit your combo, whatever, right as it's about to go off, you can start hitting them again. And the amount of time that you'll be like stunning them up for is a very significant amount of time, right? Don't be wasting your shift in a way that's going to get you killed afterwards, but you know, you go ahead and you pop this thing, hit the combo. I don't want to do it because I'll kill them. Straight into the charge, right? You can stun these guys up for quite a good amount of time. All right, so with that covered, now it's time to talk about how to actually play the thing and go over some gameplay. Before we do that though, we need to talk about what a tank actually wants to do in Marvel Rivals. So you probably heard about this concept called space, and people say things about it all the time. They, you know, they like, oh, you need to make space, you need to take space, whatever, usually when they're just mad at the tanks and they don't really know why they're losing. But what actually is space? Space is simply an area of the map, right? A place that's playable. But there are a couple different types. So you have your space, which is areas of the map that you're safe in. Then you have areas of the map where the enemy is safe, and that is enemy space. And then you have the third type of space, which is this yellow area, that is neutral space, where neither team is safe, right? So areas of the map where you're safe, enemy safe, and then nobody's safe. So what does a tank actually want to do with this space? Tanks want to either take away enemy space, or they want to create more safe space for their team. And so you have different types of tanks that lean into these. It all kinds of ends up doing the same effect overall, but they create it through different means. And so you have a character like Strange or Magneto that can walk up and like put up a shield, and if they were to be standing up here with a shield, you know, right here with the shield, all this area would become safe, right? Because they're blocking it temporarily. But you don't have that in the case of the Thing. So the Thing wants to push into the enemy team, and he wants to go pressure the enemy in some way, either by like pulling the enemy back line or making it not safe for the enemy tanks to be in a certain area for a certain time frame, and then make this like vulnerable space, right? That's what the Thing wants to do. And he wants to, by doing that, distract the enemy team from shooting at his other teammates so that their space gets a little bit better and they can like walk up and shoot people and kill them, right? So what we're going to see here is the basics of how you play the Thing. The Thing is all about, especially when you're playing on offense or you're playing a situation where it's neutral, the Thing is all about basically pushing into the enemy team and going as far as he reasonably can, like sweeping in with his charge ability, bullying the enemy team, and then retreating, right? Making them vulnerable for a certain time period, and then trying to hold some of that space by like posting up on the corner or something like that, right? So with this gameplay example here, I'll see if I can play it with the example here. We're going to see our Thing player walk up here, right? And so by walking up here, he's playing on a corner that's a little bit safe for him, but it really hasn't changed a lot for his team, right? Because his team still can't really walk forward. So what we're going to see our Thing player do is go for a very typical engagement style where he sweeps in with the charge, spins around in an area where the enemies are threatened, because they're just standing out in the open right here. This is not safe for them to be there, as you can see, because the Bucky's shooting at them, and keep them vulnerable for a time period so his team can punish them. Right, so right as he's engaging in here, this area of the map has now become dangerous space, right? So it's no longer their space. This area of the map is now dangerous. And so during this time frame, the area of the map has kind of become safer for his team, or for the Thing's team, right? And so instead of it being like this far back of neutral space, we're looking at it being something like this, right? Something like this. These things change all the time during the game, and of course, like the Bucky's not entirely safe here, but this is an example of generally how this sort of thing functions, right? So this is how the Thing player is always going to be looking to engage. All right, so with that, you're going to see a basic engage, and it's what you're looking to do all the time. What you're going to see, and I'll show it from the first person, is when you're making these kind of engagements, because it's your job to do it, like I said, you have a couple different options, right? You basically want to try and go as far as you can without going too far. And so what you're going to see here is our Thing player is going to dash in. He's essentially punishing these three people that are out in the open here, splitting up the enemy team because you have a support down on the bottom here, and then also one on the right side. And it's going to, because he's safe doing it, he can stay and you can keep spinning here and then just barely go around the corner. If this is more risky or you had to push further in, you're going to see him doing less aggro pushing, which I will show more down the line in this video. Again, he just bullies them here, slams this, and then he just retreats, right? And as you can see how effective this is, as soon as the engage occurs, right? Or as soon as it finishes, you can see how low these guys are, because during this process, the Bucky was able to pull them both in and start messing them up, right? So in this gameplay clip, you're basically going to be constantly doing this as a Thing, right? So you just didn't engage, the enemy backed up, they're low, you didn't get enough value out of it, or you didn't push them out of the area that you want to go in, so you got to do it again, right? But you do have to be careful. You got to be paying attention to what kind of cooldowns you have. And so in this situation, our Thing player has to wait for their shift to be available, and then when the shift is available, they can go back. So I'm saying they, 'cause it was me playing, but like I said, we're going to see our Thing player just walk in, start pressuring the enemy backline, and then pressure in. Hit a spinning ability here, not going super hard, but since there's a health pack there, pretty safe to just keep walking enemy supports and pressure them. right? Your dive distances are always gonna be measured by like how risky, right? So when you're going in, you're gonna be having to try and guess like how much damage you're taking, how much damage you're going to take, and then you need to be thinking about like where your teammates are, right? So if you see that your teammates are close behind you, you can go on ahead and go, continue going, right? You need to be basically within a distance to jump back to your ally. Because when you're having to do these sort of like sweeping engages, you're looking to hit the engage and then retreat with either, the sweep coming back, but if you want to like commit to it, you're coming back with your jump. So, yeah, we're gonna see that in this example here, where I went and I pushed in on this right side angle because my teammates can all see me down this corridor, so it's not super, super dangerous. But what I'm not doing is like overextending super hard here, right? And now that my charge is back though, if I do plan on doing this, I can just make sure that I'm dashed back. So when you do have your charge available, you can go extend a little bit more. It's not really always like the best thing to be doing. In that situation, it was okay. But if you are going to be doing that, you want to have your dash, your charge to get back. All right. So now that we have controlled the map here, or now that we have like won the engagement, the original one, and pressured them a little bit, the areas of the map that are safe are basically the whole area, right? And the enemy are going to be basically having to push through them. I'm not going to draw it all right now because whatever, but basically all of this area that we're in is safe, right? And the enemy's going to have to walk into contested space to pressure up into this area, right? And so your job when you're on defense is to keep them there as long as possible. So you would want to like stand on this corner down here, punch the tanks as they try and walk through, or punch the supports, right? And punish them for being in that space. And basically just pressure them so they have to try and back up, right? Or literally as they walk through, go in and charge and then keep hitting them up, right? And keep them in that dangerous area longer while your teammates can just click on them from safe area. This area goes a little bit, or this situation goes a little bit different just because the enemy breaks through. So when that happens, it's time to just walk off. They pop an ultimate. The game's gotten kind of wild here. So we go on ahead and back up. We do also end up losing this fight because the enemy pops a bunch of ultimates and they just like frag our whole team. So, whatever. That is going to happen sometime. And there wasn't really that much that could be done in this situation. So what you're going to see here is another sort of soft pressure engage, right? It is really useful if you can walk in from the high ground in places, just because it gets you started off closer. So instead of like me having to walk through all this choke point down here and potentially take damage, I'm already pretty close to the enemy, right? But I'm going to hit the same general style of engage. As you can see, these enemies are all standing out here. My team's trying to walk up. And so I'm going to sweep in, pressure them, and not go too hard, right? I know in that circumstance, if I like kept going there, I would be face tanking against like 5, right? And my teammates can't swing around that corner here because the enemy team has now backed up behind a corner. Things breaking, but assuming this thing didn't break, the enemy team is backing around a corner. And so if I was to go continue pursuing that, my teammates wouldn't be able to see me. And so I'm just gonna, right? So I engage. But what you're gonna see here is another style of engage. So this thing falls on top of me and I have my little high ground access. I am simply gonna go walk into the enemy backline, right? When I'm talking about using these like sweeping engages, those are only to be used if the enemy team, like if you're forced to be. Like if I was forced to come in from this Magneto's angle, I would need to go and do something just because these guys have good cover to use. They're like, can cover up on this triangle thing, this high ground, and poke, and then we have to have like a difficult time walking into this. I would need to come into this. But if you can find high ground angles like this, where you could just walk in an enemy backline, drop and walk into them, you're doing the same exact thing effectively. You just aren't having to use your dash for it. And so you have that for later in the fight or retreat with, which also means you can walk pretty far. And so I just walk in. I do end up popping my ultimate here and we end up killing the Star-Lord off of it. But it's, again, it's the same exact thing, right? Then I'm on the support, punching them in the face, and bullying them. And so just to show that really quickly, how this does all this value. We have me up in this high ground. Weird one. That was but you know, they have all the space in here. Even if I hadn't ulted, these guys are gonna have to start backing up, right? But I engage on them, start pressuring this little guy. He's doing nothing to support the rest of his team now. The cloak starts panicking. I walk up onto the cloak, bully the cloak. The cloak panics and jumps up into here. And so she's wasted her escape ability, and then my teammates kill her. And then we have now won the fight, right? And so that's how you really want to be playing the thing, right? You're looking to take those sort of engagements, and you are looking to get as far as you can reasonably into the mini backline, using as few resources as possible. And then just punching the crap out of their backline. The healing in this game is absolutely ridiculously obscene. So if you are able to stop the enemy team from being able to heal their allies, then you win, right? That is the name of Marvel. Overwatch also has those kind of problems, but it's not even quite as extreme as in Marvel Rivals. It's just crazy. Moving into the next section, we're going to see some more of these kind of engages, but then we're going to also see some useful aspects for how to use your ultimate, how to play defensive positions stronger, and how to just maximize your value on a character like thing. All right, so we are pulling up to the point here, and as you can see right here, this is like really long stretch, right? I can reasonably get to the middle here, but what's going to be happening when I'm in this situation is that like my team is going to have a hard time supporting, right? So I can't just like instantly try and like dash into the whole enemy team, right? What I need to do is, one, wait till my teammates get here a little bit more, and you can see me looking behind to check my teammates. But then I'm going to look to do the same sort of engage, sweep in, right? And just pressure this tank here, and then post up on a safe location. So as a tank, you always want to be playing on corners. Corners are an incredibly valuable thing in these type of shooter games, especially in a game like Marvel Rivals, right? Because of how they affect how the back line interacts with the front line, and how the front line has to interact with the back. So what exactly do I mean by this? When you're a support player, right, and you're playing in a safe location, good location, walking up here, if your tank walks around this corner and tries to get into the space that they want to protect and get more space, you can't support them during this time frame, right? You literally just can't see them anymore. You can't help them. So to be able to help them, you have to creep further and further and further around this corner, right? Which is going to start opening you up to a bunch of sight lines of the enemy, where you can literally just get killed, right? The Bucky could hook you, it's far, but whatever. He could shoot you in the face, and then a Hawkeye could shoot you, whatever. But you're risking dying, right? So corners do two things. They force the tank to either push up and try and make space before his team helps him, and then walks into it. They force him to do that without any support from the team, or they force supports and other backline characters, you know, like a ranged character like a Hawkeye or something like that, to risk their lives walking around this corner. So what does that mean for how this works for tanking? Your job as a tank is to, when you're not trying to like take space and you have the space already, you want to force the enemy to be in this bad, dangerous area as much as possible. And so this corner right here, when they have to expose themselves, but especially a little bit further around the corner, is really, right? Their Magneto wants to walk up onto this corner right here and then allow his team to start taking these angles where, you know, they can play around this corner and then be safe to shoot him. And if they do happen to take some damage, they can just kite, right? And have like the DPS like angle out and get a bunch of shots and boom, and they're able to heal everyone. They're able to attack your whole team, right? That's what they want. But if you stop them from doing that, win, right? Don't let them get to a situation of strength. You keep them in the dangerous situation a bit longer. So you should post up on corners like these whenever you can, when you're on a defensive situation, and bully the crap out of the enemy, right? You don't want to follow into the same trap though of turning around the corner to try and damage them, because then you're the one making it so your supports can't see you. And you know, if you walk around this corner, then there's 5 people shooting at you, and you've made it a 1v5 temporarily where you're just going to get crapped on. So you want to stay on your side and you want to bully the crap out of the enemy that tries to walk out, right? So that's what I'm going to do in this situation. So I know this is a very safe location for me. So when I've seen that my allies are ready to go, I'm going to do this little sweep thing and look for an engage. I wanted to try and bully the enemy here. So I went a little bit far and I end up posting up on this corner. So not super good there, but I realized that and I path over to this right side, right? Mainly because it's just the safer area. But I also know that healing is really high in this game and it's like I can temporarily have a bad positioning to get to a better. It's a mistake, but not the best one, not the worst one. And then from here, I can do what I'm talking about. I have my ult though, and so here you're going to start seeing why or how to take good advantage of your ultimate thing. What you're looking for on the thing is to hit 2 supports, right? If you hit 2 supports or all their supports, they literally can't heal each other and they will die to you. So when I looked for this engage here, I walk in and I go on ahead and I pop it on these 2, hit these guys, deal a good amount of damage, force the cloak to user thing, and then my Bucky is there to follow up on it, and then we just walk in and frag, right? And so this is why it's really important to make sure that you're in situations that your teams can support you, right? I know that since I have like pushed up to this area and I have I've been in this space for a little bit, my team can pressure up, right? So something reasonably should be able to assist me with this. Like I said, I go and I pressure him. But what I end up doing here specifically is I'm doing my job of trying to stop them from healing their tanks in their front line for as long as possible, because that's my true goal, right? I just want to try and kill the supports to take them out of the game and put them back in spawn. But if that doesn't work, I want to just stop them from healing their team for as long as possible. So when I do an ultimate like this, yeah, sure, you can just toss it into a large group and hope to get a 6-man, right? Or you can look for these type of engagements where you are using it to get close up onto supports and pop it and explode them and stop them from healing. And so even though I don't hit 2 people, what you're going to see, or I don't hit both supports, is that for this whole duration, as soon as I pop it, the supports are completely unable to support their team, right? So like from right now, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it would have been around like 10, right? And then maybe a few more seconds for them to walk back around. So even if my Bucky didn't follow up and we didn't kill, that's 13 seconds that they can't be supporting their front line. And if they didn't have this ultimate to, drop it on top of my invisible woman and just crap on her, these tanks should be dead. Right? That's 12 seconds or whatever of them not being able to be healed and my team to just turn crap on the Magni, right? But we ended up killing. So, we traded ultimates and my Bucky gets a really good ultimate because of what I provide, right? So that was an example of playing with your teammates, but it's something you really want to fixate on. Yes, you are strong on this character. It's not as extreme as a character like Venom where you really have to be able to be with your teammates, but to get any sort of value because you don't deal much damage, but you'll get a lot of extra value for doing. What you're going to see here is when I'm fighting on this corner here, I'm looking here, just poking, holding this corner, but I see that my Bucky's here with me, right? So I know that he's able to follow up on anything I do. I'm punching a little bit, and then I see that there's a huge group here, right? I knew that the full rest of the enemy team was right behind here, and so while I am extending across this to do this, I'm going to go ahead and go in anyway, just because I know that I'm going to get such huge raw value out of this, and I'm just going to mess these guys up, right? And we kill all of them. And so what you can see here is when I'm doing this whole time, what actually ends up happening is that my Bucky just gets to walk up and click on everyone for free with absolutely 0 risk. And so this is what you're doing. And if I'd done it by myself, I just wouldn't have done anything, right? Because of the way the healing works in the game, they would have just healed each other up really quickly, just walked back, maybe 3 or 4 seconds, and Magneto wouldn't get healed, whatever. But instead, my Bucky here just gets to walk up for absolute free because he's so close, and just sit there and click on these guys. Boom, boom, boom. And he's doing a bunch of damage. He's not been threatened one single time, and then he kills a Luna, and we just 2v4'd, right? Super easy. super simple, easy clap. And then I have fat finger melt because, yeah. But that's really what you want to be doing. You just really, really want to be making sure that you're with your ally. Having letting them be able to follow up. We end up getting like hard ulted here and just get shot, so whatever. All right, moving on. Same sort of thing, right? And you're gonna start seeing like what I talked about, where you have this engage style and you're looking to push into a safe area, right? There is areas of the map that are currently their space that you want to get. So we can't go quite as far as we did before, all the way back here. But this area right here is like a set of choke points right here. And so I can go post up on this right here, this big pillar thing, and get a lot of value from it. So I'm gonna see that, wait for my teammates to be close enough to help me, walk in, look to stun them up. I get caught on this thing, but I still get them 2 times, right? And I'm able to sit there and pressure. This thing is really weird to walk over, so I kind of get messed up on it. And I'm just bullying these guys, right? And since I'm aware, as I'm kind of looking around during this also, of how close my teammates generally are and where they should be, I have my dash to escape with that, right? So you're not ever trying to use your dash to get to a point where you can't be able to jump back to your teammate. If I was to try and go for this Luna Snow back here, like if I'd kept going and I hadn't spun, if I'd gone here and I kept going and then I like went around and I just started walking onto this Luna, I wouldn't be close enough to be able to jump back to anything that can work, right? And the thing about the thing is that he doesn't have any actual ways to shield himself. And so if you are exposed for any situation, then you will just go ahead and get burnt if you're not careful and if you don't have the ability to jump back with either your jump or your dash. Yeah, and then just simply like that, we clean up and it's a free death. There is one extra little concept here for how you want to play against divers. Your primary job in a situation like this is still to hold these sort of circumstances and like cover choke points and stuff like that. But when it comes to playing against divers, like if you're playing against like a bunch of divers, you have to default to being safer towards your team, right? So if we're playing and they have like Spider-Man and Venom and like one other diver character, I can't hold this space up here, right? Because I'm too split. My supports are going to be back here because they want to create distance from the divers, and the divers are just going to try and jump in and bypass me and blow them up, right? So I'm going to choose like the next best choke point and play back here, right? And then when my teammate gets dove, I need to kind of guess like, is there something I have to be doing right? Like, do I have to be stuffing something on this? Is there a support I could walk onto and trade and punch out? Or did the diver go in too early and I can just jump onto them and start punching them and body blocking them, right? I don't have super good gameplay for this diving concept, but it's not really something you need to focus on too much on thing, but just keep in mind you have to play closer towards your team, that you need to be clumped up. That's how you survive dive, you stay together as